I'm reporting it.
Okay, so my 5-year personal goal is to exit the company at a place where that'll set me up for the future. I don't know what that like dollar amount is, but I do know in 5 years I do want to exit. So yeah. Our company's purpose to change the lives of children, their families, and our dreamers. Our 5-year vision, increase revenue to 20 million and exit. Our 3-year goals are 14 million in revenue, 1.5 million in net profit, and to have 9 locations. Our next 12 to 18 months, we want to hire a COO. Now we need a regional director since our last one just left. And then really building up on our admin team abroad. We want to open 1, maybe 2, or have 2, the second one in progress. We need to move one of our locations, our Ontario location, and then currently for our Monrovia location, we have 2 leases. We have our office, and now that everything is virtual, I'm realizing we really do not need a separate office. So I want to eliminate that lease for sure. I want to improve our, I should say NPS, our Net Promoter Score for clients and our employees. And then clinically, just some goals about increasing parent involvement, and then really changing our approach to being compassion-led for our therapy. One of my big areas that I am concerned about is just having some kind of clinical error, making some kind of clinical error where there's some kind of something that can really hold us in a bad place. So I really want to focus heavily on our training and doing everything we can to ensure that our employees have what they need in terms of how they should be carrying out the therapy. For the next 12 to 18 months, our objectives, I guess, I don't know if this goes here or if it was already on the previous slide about the hiring, but increasing hours to 175,000 hours by the end of the year. I would hope to get a new owner for this when we get our COO on and not be me. This is me right now. Some gaps that I identified is our hiring. It's always an issue. It's always a struggle. And what's really holding us back from meeting that is that we just can't bring people on and train them fast enough and get them to stay. And then as well as we don't currently have an intake department. So getting that going is something that we need. Increasing our net profit. To be honest, right now we don't look at our net profit as much as we look at revenue. And so that's something that I really want to work on this year is holding myself accountable for that. I have the right people in place as far as the CFO now. So I just need to really bring that into really looking at that KPI this year. And then just increasing our hiring and retention, having our net number of employees increase throughout the year. Tools that we need to maintain focus. We have our EOS and 90, which is really helpful. Our scorecard for visibility. And then again, EOS and 90 to manage our priorities. There are some processes, thanks, I just filled this in, that we need, which is we need to define a little bit further our intake process because we have it, but it needs to get defined even more than it currently is. And our training for our leadership team also. And then as far as our meetings goes, we really want to revise how we're doing our L10s right now and really pushing it down to the whole company almost. That would be ideal maybe in the next 18 months is that it gets pushed down all the way to the bottom to our line staff. I don't know about triggers. I don't know what that was, but yeah, that's pretty much what I have here. I added a couple other things. We want to get rid of clients with high cancellation percentage and low commitment. and we want to toss our current practice management system and replace it with a new system. So we're actively working on that. And that's what I have so far.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Cristina. Now, who has a question for Cristina? That was a whirlwind. All right. What are you curious about? What do you want to know? Any thoughts? Yes, Lupe.
What are you going to do when you pull out, Cristina, in 5 years?
Oh, I don't know. I want to probably start another business. I honestly want to do it because I feel like kind of like, you know, when you're gambling and you're winning and you got to pull out before you start losing. And that's kind of how I feel with the business. Like before, I don't know, legislation changes or, I don't know, something really bad happens. I don't know. I just kind of want to get out while I'm ahead. And so if I can get to a place, and also just the stress, it's a lot, it's a lot. It takes a lot out of me. And yeah, so I would just look forward to being able to not have as much on my plate and kind of maybe live a simpler life.
Yeah. Great question. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else got any questions, thoughts?
Just a thought, you know, it's really interesting seeing your business. You start to gain some nice momentum, you get some couple of good hires and things start moving in the right direction. It seems like a curveball comes along or somebody that you hired left, right? But
yeah.
I appreciate your tenacity that you keep clawing back and keep pushing forward, because I know sometimes it's difficult to do, right? You got a hurdle right now with this litigation going on, and you just had you know, one of your upper management team that departed, that was kind of struggling, that departed. But
Yeah.
I love the tenacity that you keep pushing forward and you keep looking for the next person to fill those shoes.
Thank you.
And I love that. I think that's one of the reasons for your success is
Oh,
that,
thank you.
that tenacity. And I really admire that. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think you really put your finger on the pulse, so to speak, when you talked about paying attention to your profitability. Because if you want to sell in 5 years, this is the time to start watching the profitability. As you've all noticed, when you start growing, suddenly you have less cash. It gets harder. Thank goodness the government threw a bunch of money at you recently. I mean, it's the one blessing that you could say came out of the pandemic, even though revenues were a bit unpredictable and it was a bit painful. The fact is they gave you a bunch of money, and quite a number of you are now sitting on a little pot of cash, and you can use that cash to help you achieve these goals that you want to achieve. But so I would say watch that profitability, and probably within a couple of years get the company valued in say 18 months to 2 years time, so you can get a sense of how am I, and work with those people to figure out what would it look like if I waited another 3 years before I sold it. Is my timing right?
Yeah, exactly.
Proactive with that. So
I think what I just told Jeff is advice that I also need for myself, which is if I am looking at a potential acquisition, even if it's 5 years away, I do need to like start setting some of that into motion.
Yeah. And you're going the other way. You want to sell. You may not even go for acquisitions at all during this period. You could.
No, not me acquiring, being acquired. Yeah.
Yeah, being acquired, because your culture is so special. The painful piece would be transitioning your culture onto a new company. You know, somebody who's doing it in a more traditional way, or whatever, didn't quite have the culture that you have, that could be pretty uncomfortable for everybody. So I think going for the sale is the way to go. And we'll all be cheering you on. Right? So
you told me this about 4 years ago, and I was at the time like, no way, I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna sell. Fast forward 4 years and I'm like, I'm ready.
You didn't know how tired you were gonna get.
No.
It's exhausting.
No. It's exhausting. Yes.
It's exhausting. I mean, you know, to build a company at the speed that you've done it and deal with the consequences of that isn't easy. So you've got a great role model here. And I would say, Christina, you've made, you know, you've learned certain things that you would do it differently now. And I think that that's, you know, a huge benefit to the rest of the group as well, as they try and scale up from where they are. So great. Thank you for that.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Wonderful. All right.